Social influence. So we'll be talking about learning from others, conformity, minority influence, compliance, and obedience to authority. Other people influence what we believe, feel, and do. This is called social influence. Social learning means we can learn by watching others, not just from direct experience. So, a student who watches a classmate solve a tricky math problem might learn quickly how to do it for themselves. Mirror neurons, we talked about, are the brain cells that activate both when we see someone do something and when we do something ourselves. And so this helps us understand and imitate actions. So when you see a friend smile, your brain neurons make you feel happy too. Self-efficacy is believing in your ability to do something. So a student who believes they can improve their grades is more likely to study hard and ultimately succeed. Bandura's Bobo doll studies showed that kids learn behaviors by watching others. So in this experiment, when children saw adults acting aggressively towards this Bobo doll, which is kind of like a big, you can see it in the picture, but it's a big inflatable clown, the kids were more likely to act aggressively themselves later. This proved that people can learn not just by doing things, but also just by observing others. The chameleon effect is when people unconsciously imitate the behaviors, expressions, or gestures of those around them, and this helps us connect and get along with others better. So, like if you're talking to a friend who smiles and nods, you might notice that when you're in a conversation, you're smiling and nodding too, without even realizing it. This makes the conversation feel more kind of comfortable and friendly. Social learning is learning by watching others. And this is helpful because it teaches us new skills and behaviors. But sometimes it can also have negative effects. Like when the media shows celebrity suicides, studies actually find that suicide rates go up afterwards, after seeing it in the news. So movies like Deer Hunter or The Program have also sadly inspired risky or harmful behaviors because people copy what they see. So when you think about video games and you're shooting all these people, right? Think about it. Social priming means other people or situations can influence us by bringing certain ideas, rules, or values to mind without us even realizing it. So focus theory of normative conduct explains two types of social norms. There's injunctive norms, which is when people believe a behavior is either approved or disapproved. So, like littering, for example, most people would disapprove of that behavior. They think, oh, littering is not great. Descriptive norms are what people believe most others actually do. So if you see people recycle, you notice that, and you might recycle too. Social contagion is when ideas, feelings, or behaviors spread quickly from one person to another. Kind of like catching a cold, but with actions or emotions. An example would be yawning, right? When you see someone yawn, you're more likely to yawn. Laughter, it's pretty contagious, right? Applause. When one student starts applauding, especially in middle school, a lot of other students start applauding. Obesity, surprisingly. Studies show that people's eating habits and weights can be influenced by their social circle. So who are you hanging around? And then mass psychogenic illness. Sometimes groups of people can develop physical symptoms like headaches or dizziness with no medical cause, simply because the feeling spread socially. Our cultural worldview is the set of beliefs and values we learn as kids and keep growing into as adults. This worldview helps shape how we see social situations and the role we play in societies. Culturally defined social situations are events or settings that have meanings based on culture, like weddings or funerals. Culturally defined social roles are the expected behaviors tied to roles like student, teacher, or parent. And in 1971, there was a psychologist named Philip Zimbardo, and he set up a fake prison in the basement of Stanford University. He recruited college students and randomly assigned them to be either guards or prisoners. And the goal was to see how far people would go performing in these roles. And what happened was quite surprising and a little bit alarming. The guards, who were assigned guards, quickly started acting harsh and controlling, sometimes cruel, even though they were just regular students. Whereas the prisoners became passive, stressed, and showed signs of emotional distress. And the situation got so intense that this experiment actually had to be stopped after only 6 days, even though it was supposed to last 2 weeks. An experiment showed how powerful social roles and situations are. People can lose their personal identity and behave in ways that fit the role they're given, even if it goes against their usual personality or morals. So this is a classic example of how people easily conform to social expectations when they're placed in certain environments. Conformity is when someone changes what they believe, think, or do to match the majority around them, like conforming to a situation. Public compliance means going along with a group's behaviors or opinion just to fit in, even if you don't really believe it inside. An example would be you laugh at a joke in class, even though you don't think it's funny, just so you don't feel left out. Maybe you don't even understand it. Private acceptance means you actually change your own beliefs to match the group, not just your behavior. An example would be after hearing everyone's reasons, you start to agree that maybe the movie was pretty good, even if you didn't think so at first. Informational influence happens when you look to others for information, especially when it's kind of an unclear situation and you trust their knowledge. Like if you're unsure how to act in a new social setting, you watch others and you think, okay, what should I do? And you kind of copy them because they should know what's right? Ash's conformity studies tested whether people would give the wrong answer just to fit in with the group. So it's kind of crazy. In the experiment, participants were shown a simple line and had to say which of the 3 lines matched it in length. When everyone else, who were actually paid actors, gave the wrong answer on purpose, many real participants also said the wrong answer, even though it was clearly wrong, just to conform with the group. Minority influence is when a small group with different political views stands firm and eventually changes the opinion of the majority, even if they face criticism or rejection at first. So you might want to think of the civil rights activists in the 1960s in the U.S. They were a minority pushing against the widespread racial segregation and discrimination. Despite facing strong opposition, and even some losing their lives, taking big risks, their persistence helped shift public opinion and laws towards greater equality over time. Self-perception theory says that when people freely do something, they start to believe in attitudes that match their actions. The foot in the door means that if someone agrees to a small request first, they're more likely to agree to a bigger related request later. An example would be maybe a campaign volunteer might first agree just to put a little sticker on their car supporting a candidate, right? The small request. Later, since they've already shown support, they're more likely to volunteer for phone calls or canvassing, which is a larger request. Their actions help shape their stronger commitment to the campaign. The norm for social commitment means that when people publicly agree to something, they usually stick with it, even if things change or it becomes harder. Lowballing happens when someone agrees to a deal or promise, and even after learning that there's extra costs or problems, they still feel committed and don't back out easily. A good example is maybe someone who publicly supports a political candidate during a campaign. Well, later they find out the candidate changed some policies they don't actually like, which would be extra cost. But because they already told others, oh, this candidate's so great, and they've been supporting them, they just keep backing up the candidate to avoid seeming inconsistent or unreliable. And so this happens a lot with politics, and you can even see it now with the presidency. Reciprocity means that we feel like we should return a favor when someone gives us something, even if we don't ask for it. It's a common tactic in sales and negotiations. The door in the face effect happens when someone first asks for something big, which you say no to, and then they follow up with a smaller request. When they follow up with a smaller request, you're more likely to agree to that request because it feels more reasonable in comparison. So like when you're walking through a mall, like you're in Wichita, you're walking through a mall and someone says, "Oh, do you want to try our skincare? Try this free sample." It's a face lotion or whatever. So you try it, right? And giving you that small free gift might make you feel like you owe them. So you stop and listen, right? Then they say to you, "Okay, would you like to buy our full skincare line? It's only $150 and it'll last you a while." Oh, that's easy to say no to, right? That's way too much. No, thank you. So then they follow up with, "Okay, how about just the one you tried? It's proven to clear acne. It's great and it's only $25. It's only 3 hours of working. You can afford it. It's worth it." Because you turned down the bigger offer, the smaller one feels more manageable. And since they were nice, gave you something free, you're more likely to comply. So that's the reciprocity and door in the face effect. Social proof is when we follow what we think other people are doing, especially respected or popular ones. Scarcity is when something seems more valuable just because it's rare or running out. An example would be maybe you're shopping at Walmart and you see a display of air fryers on sale, right? #1 bestseller, over 10,000 5-star reviews. Okay, looks pretty good. That's social proof. You're more likely to want it because so many other people have bought it and loved it. Next to it, though, is a sign that says only 2 left in stock. Suddenly it feels more urgent and you feel like, "Ooh, I gotta get this. It's desirable," even if you weren't really sure you needed it. That's scarcity. Obedience is when someone follows a direct order or command from another person, usually someone in authority. The pressure to obey is strong, clear, and often hard to resist. Like during COVID in 2020, governments told people to wear masks and stay home, social distancing. Even if some people didn't want to, they obeyed because the rule came from official authorities and were meant to protect public health. This shows how obedience can be necessary to keep society safe and functioning. And then Milgram's obedience studies. This showed how far people would go in obeying authority, even if it meant harming someone else. So participants were told they were helping with a study on learning. They were instructed by an authority figure, a man in a lab coat, to give an electric shock to another person who was actually an actor. Every time that person gave a wrong answer, the shocks increased in intensity with each mistake, even up to dangerous levels. Even though the learner was clearly in pain, not actually being shocked because they were just actors, many participants continued obeying the instructions simply because the authority figure told them to. This showed that people are surprisingly likely to follow orders from authority figures even when it conflicts with their own morals, especially when they feel like their responsibility isn't theirs.